I guess the band Cage the Elephant was right after all. There ain't no rest for the wicked, and money don't grow on trees. I may not have bills to pay, but I got a mouth to feed, and there ain't nothing in this world for free. So ignoring the fact that I don't monetize any of my videos, let me just say hello, and welcome back to my Fairy Tail arc analysis series. Last time, I covered the less than pleasant Lullaby arc, and after taking a couple of weeks break from making videos and starting up live streaming on Twitch, link in the description for that by the way, I'm totally reinvigorated to get back into the swing of things and analyze Fairy Tail's second real arc, Galuna Island. So without further ado, let's begin. So this arc starts with Happy stealing a job request from the S-Class floor, the floor which only wizards of S-Class can go and take jobs from, so they're only for the best of the best, to break a curse on a place called Galuna Island. The plan is Natsu and Happy are going to take Lucy, and I'll take the request to prove that Natsu is a strong boy, or something. Obviously Makarov is furious because they're gonna die, and Gray steps up to forcefully drag them back to the guild. Thankfully no one will take them over to the island for fear of catching the curse, except this guy, who changes his mind after watching Natsu and Gray threaten each other with magic. So Natsu knocks out Gray and forces him to stay tied up on the boat, and then more exposition. This guy used to be a native of the island, but he left after catching the curse and watching everyone else suffer from it, so he could warn others, I guess. He even has a cool demon arm to show for it, and apparently he can just refuse to exist at will? Like he was just there, and now he's not. And then a random tidal wave crashes into the boat, and now I kinda feel bad for Gray because he's all tied up and is unable to swim. They wake up on the island in the morning and somehow none of their belongings have been soaked, not even the job request sheet. Then since they're kinda stranded on the island with no way of knowing how to get back to the guild, Gray pulls an Urza from the last arc and decides to abandon the entire reason he exists here, and now he's gonna help Natsu, Happy, and Lucy actually break the island curse. In the span of literally 5 minutes in the episode, Gray has entirely flipped for no other reason than, well, I guess I'm here now and there's plot to be had. Also, Gray has to be in this arc because he's now one of the main 5, and as I said in the last video, Gray has some seriously heavy backstory stuff revealed to this arc, so there's no other option. Onward to the details! The leader of this totally not a commentary on the stereotypes harbored towards Middle Eastern people village informs the group that the moon that they use to absorb moonlight from, whatever that means but keep it in mind for later, has now turned purple, and that somehow caused everyone in the village to have demon parts during the day and become demons during the night. Or rather, when the moon passes overhead out of narrative convenience. That's not a gripe, I just thought it was kinda funny. Oh, and I guess this curse causes some people each night to lose their minds and become fully demonic, so they have to be executed, including the boat guy from earlier? We just saw him 4 minutes ago in the episode. What the hell is happening? Either the boat guy was dead the whole time, or this guy is totally crazy, which he probably is, because he also says that the only cure is to blow up the fucking moon. Yeah, sure, no problem. Just call Urza and tell her to throw out the power of 6 trillion thermonuclear bombs at an object nearly 239,000 miles away from Earth. I'm sure she can find the time. Some useless conversations happen, and during a fight the next day with a giant blue rat in a lace maid's outfit, no, I did not stutter, Lucy yells that they should hide in a random place just off the road. Stupid boy antics ensue, and now they're stuck in a random cave, somehow alive and somehow unable to just hold on to Happy to fly them all out of there, so Natsu decides to explore deeper with the most hilarious run cycle I have ever seen. It's just so janky and awkward that I can't help but loop this footage so we all have an excuse to marvel at its shittiness. And literally the next cut leads us to a giant demon encased in ice. What the hell is it doing underneath an island? Gray somehow knows what it is, almost like there's some personal connection, but before we can get an explanation, a couple of random people show up, and just by the look of their character designs, you can already tell they are going to be important at some point soon. They bring up some weird stuff like moon drip, collecting moonlight, and someone called the Cold Emperor. I don't really know what the deal is here. Well, okay, I do, but for the sake of new viewers and keeping this video at a decent pace, I'll move to Gray talking about how his late master Uor sacrificed everything to seal the demon away. Why is any of this important? Because that demon, Deliora, is from the Book of Zareth. Yeah, now it's important. Natsu gets ready to bust it open so he can kill it forever, make note of that for later too, and Gray socks him square in the jaw for it, which ends up being useless because they both know that no amount of fire Natsu can provide can melt that amount of ice. We watched him melt solid steel train tracks last arc. What's little ice compared to that? Well, this time there's a reason, because that glacial sealing spell, Iced Shell, cannot be melted by any flame. So they go to leave to find answers for what the hell Deliora is doing there and why, and—
No!
What? Is there something you need first? Oh wait, he wanted to show me a contradiction. Okay. Earlier, that one maid lady mentioned that it's almost time to collect Moonlight again, but when Gray demands the group stays put until then, Natsu points out that it's the middle of the afternoon. The only reason it might be difficult to catch this is because that was close to the end of one episode while this is near the beginning of the next, but come on, nobody's that stupid except for me when I was first watching it, come on! So while they're waiting, Lucy summons a spirit to play a random song, which triggers emotional flashbacks to some time when Gray had spent time with Ur, and crying ensues. Out of fear for showing genuine human emotion around other people, he demands that the spirit leave because they need to stay quiet. Now would be a really good time to actually reveal your backstory. I won't do it for you. Gray, listen to me. Do you understand? Are you sure? Okay, go somewhere else, and when you have your backstory ready, you can come back, okay? Good, I'll see you in a bit. Oh jeez, while I wasn't looking, the random people from earlier started collecting Moonlight. I gotta find my place again. Oh right, cultists on the roof, got it. They're chanting stuff to keep the Moon Drip spell active in an attempt to melt the ice-sealing Deliora, because as it turns out, concentrated moon energy can break any magic spell. That's oddly convenient. The Moon Drip is also the cause of the villagers' current state, as exposure to moon energy is the same as exposure to radiation, sort of. So they got real sick from it. The three lackeys from earlier come back with the so-called Cold Emperor, who talks that Deliora should be free within a day or so, and— Gray, are you doing okay? Because you look like this guy is important to you somehow. You sure? Okay. Oh, don't worry about him. It's just that he and the other guy, I guess his name's Leon, know each other for some reason, and Leon uses the same magic as Gray for some reason. Oh, I guess they were both students of Ur. That's neat. Don't worry about the others either. Natsu got encased in ice and punted away, and Happy and Lucy went back to the village because the lackeys are going to destroy it because evil. Oh, and Urza's on her way back to murder some guild people. Did you forget that they took this job without being S-class? This is now the part of the video where I talk about the antagonist's master plan, so here's the gist of it. Leon wants to resurrect Deliora so he can kill it to prove to himself that he is stronger than his late master ever was. I'm not particularly angry at this one, but I would like to point out that setting this demon free would likely kill everyone on the island and possibly the entire world. Did he forget the whole reason Ur had to seal it away? According to Gray, it destroyed everything in its path, including everything Gray and Leon held dear. So he knows that doing this would be a bad idea, especially since when he fails to kill it, the rampage will continue and no one will be able to stop it. The whole point of sealing it away was to keep it from killing everyone again. Why is he so delusional? Oh, and I guess Gray gets his ass kicked by Leon, who is spouting a bunch of "You killed our master, idiot!" nonsense just to make himself seem less like a stuck-up child. And when Natsu comes back up to carry him over to the village because that's where the rest of the plot is heading, there's a bit of a flashback that tries to show Gray's inability to grasp the weight of this quest, showing that his master had tried to stop him from fighting Deliora in the same way that he tried to stop Natsu from taking on the S-Class quest. That's almost touching, because it implies a sense of character development. But then it's brushed off with the classics, just keep moving forward. Sure, fine, don't even let him internalize this, just bulldoze over his character, yeah, sure, fine. Over in the village, the Elder is angry that the moon still exists, even though what he's asking is not only completely irrelevant to the problem, but also absolutely physically impossible. But expect them to pop up and ask for it every now and then. And Lucy decides that the only logical way to capture a few people who are both willing and able to murder everyone in the village is to jump cut to having a pitfall trap installed near the front gate. Yeah, no, not gonna work. Not unless you line the hole with steel to keep them from digging out of it, and cover it with a bunch of steel to keep them from leaping out of it, or just say forget it and toss a few boulders in to kill them all instantly. Hey, I know a guy who could help with all of those points, and there he is now. This is what we like to call zero-budget filmmaking. And despite the fact that a discolored pitfall trap would never ever work on anyone ever in the history of ever, it absolutely works on him. Well, I guess that's exactly the trope played out bit by bit. And this somehow causes her shirt strap to come undone. Wait, never mind. The more important thing was that it managed to break all the ice that Natsu was trapped in. Just ignore the fact that you can't see any evidence of him being trapped in ice. Oh, and her outfit is fixed now. That's convenient. Speaking of convenience, where were the lackeys in all of this? Natsu's slow ass got there first, despite him leaving after them and coming back to the top of the ruins to grab Gray. Well, speak of the devil, they're back, but with acid. And not the kind that causes college students to fall into crippling debt, I mean the kind that's going to completely dissolve everything. Natsu manages to, I guess, push enough of it to the outside ring to not kill anyone. Only problem now is that they're kinda stuck on this newly made hill with no way out, which sucks because now the lackeys are here to murder everyone in the village. Lucy manages to somehow grab onto the rat, which I don't really understand how or why, leaving Natsu to face Dr. Eyebrows and Not Dog. Those aren't their names, but I truly do not care what they are. And partway through Eyebrows' talk, Natsu just slams him with fire, leading to this.
Listen when I'm talking to you! Why?
I think I'm actually resonating with an anime character here, but let's just say that while this fight is incredibly short, listening to Todd Habercorn go nuts like this just makes me smile. And seeing something that I can only classify as pure insanity like this is pretty neat, even if it doesn't make that much sense narratively. Next up is the worst fight scene ever. It's super short, it's riddled with more stills like I mentioned last video, but this time you have no choice but to stare at the smears placed all over the screen. Normally, smears are used to give the animation more fluidity, since these fights are only really 12 frames per second, maybe 24 at best, and they help properly convey the sense of speed and power these strikes would normally have. They aren't that easy to notice unless you really look for them, because they only last for a frame or two, but when you leave them up for seconds at a time, it's just horrible. Here, I'll let those shots play out in their entirety.
Nobody talks to me like that! Watch it! With just one swipe from my claws, you'll be frozen waiting to die!
See how bad that is? I almost want to vomit just looking at it. Except upon closer inspection, they seem to mimic the manga panels exactly. Now that changes things a bit. See, in a manga, there's a huge reason to do this, because that's literally all you can do to convey several quick strikes on a single panel, but these do not translate into animation, period. Over in Lucy's fight scene, she faces that one maid-looking girl who uses a special kind of magic to turn Lucy's own spirits against her. Okay, spirit. Because what better way to show some fan service than with the most perverted character in the show tearing her clothes off with an axe? No idea how it happened without also putting the axe in her spine, but interestingly enough, the original manga had the maid girl force Taurus to pin Lucy down like in the anime and remove her top. So as weird as the anime's depiction of that event is, I still prefer it over the manga. And the fight's over now anyway, so let's move on. I mean, technically more stuff happened, but it was all pointless. And besides, Urza showed up anyway. And she don't give a hecking darn what happens to the villagers from here on out, because she's only here to drag the gang back to the guild by any means necessary. Except the next day, after Gray offers her the chance to kill him right then and there for defying guild rules and then walking away threatening that she can't stop him from doing what needs to be done, she changes her mind for the better this time and decides to help finish the job quest. For those of you keeping track at home, this is now the second arc with Urza completely abandoning the entire reason she's with the rest of the gang because the plot all of a sudden demands it for some reason. Thank Christ this time it's not due to an outright contradiction. Meanwhile, Natsu decides the best plan is to go off on his own and destroy all the support pillars in the ruins on one side. I guess now they can't perform the moon drip to bring Deliora back to life. And then, just because he can, he picks a fight with Leon as well, only to get wrecked by this other guy. Don't worry about him until later, but make a very light note of him. Also, Gray, you better have your backstory done by now, because we are almost at the arc's climax and— oh, wait, it is? Awesome, let's see what you have written down. Let's see. Deliora broke my hometown. Ur founded raised me and Leon to use freezing magic by stripping down in the cold and running a lot. I left to fight Deliora, I nearly died, and Ur cast Iced Shell to seal it away. Yeah, that's about right. See, was that so hard? Alright, now get on out of here. I have a video to finish. Oh, right. let me explain. Iced Shell is a spell that sealed Deliora in the ice that couldn't be melted by anything except Moondrip, but in exchange, the caster's body is destroyed and takes the form of the ice. Ur had to cast it to keep Leon from doing it because he was a dumb asshat who didn't read the whole book it was in. So now, Leon thinks that Ur flat out died and is melting her ice body to free the demon that she sealed away. Because that's just what an intelligent person would do. Also, yes, a good amount of stuff was left out, like how the magic they were taught is called Maker Magic, and there's a really important difference between using it with one hand versus two hands, but this letter is the best way I've found to simplify all of the important details. Back in the present, Gray insists on fighting Leon alone, and threatens to use Iced Shell on him. Yeah, he's flat out ready to die right here and now. Except just before he can cast it to prove he's not bluffing, Natsu punches him out of it. Because I guess using two random things he was told, he was able to put it together that Iced Shell kills the caster. And Leon knew Gray wasn't bluffing, he was just gonna let his lackeys use Moondrip to melt that ice and then revive Deliora afterwards, so he didn't care about whether or not Gray actually cast it. And then we cut to the outside to show that the temple isn't tilted anymore. That short guy fixed all the pillars. Don't ask now, because he's gone now and Natsu chased after him. Now it's time for the big showdown, as the title of the episode suggests, so let's talk about it. Gray tries to tell Leon that Ur's body is the Iced Shell, but he gives another "No you" and nearly murders Gray. Then lots of punching ensues as we, for some reason, cut away to Natsu and Short Guy? Okie dokie. Hey, at least this means we can get a break from the intentionally throat-shredding deliveries Gray was giving.
You have no right to speak her name, and I won't let you!
Anyway, Short Guy gives a demonstration of how he fixed the temple. His Arc of Time magic lets him alter the time of any non-living thing he wants. Did a boulder just get smashed? He can change it back to the time before it was smashed. A bunch of ice in his way? He can send the ice into its future when it's been melted and is no longer a problem. That's really cool, especially when, oh, never mind, it's back to Gray getting his ass handed to him. The pacing isn't very good at this point of the arc. There's a reason to switch back and forth between different scenes like this, but doing it in exactly this way, where we see so little actually happening, is pretty poor. Oh, and how convenient, Gray manages to turn the tides by remembering an event in his past. And cute, the two events are happening in the exact same way, that's just precious. Also, I just want to let this line stay here for a second.
I remember looking at the sky that day. I don't know why, but it was so blue it made me angry.
I have absolutely no idea what this has to do with anything, but the fact that it's completely unrelated to the story and somehow causes Gray to win against Leon is so perfect that I could not leave it out. I guess after that, Gray decides that it's time to use magic, and then we cut to Natsu and Short Guy in the caves next to the nearly thawed Deliora. There's a lot of cutting between more scenes, so here's basically what happened. Not Dog begins the Moondrip ritual, Natsu and Short Guy maybe fight off screen, Leon talks about how he's managed to pull off his plan so far, Urza and Lucy figure out that the cultists are people from the city of Braga that got destroyed by Deliora and they just want revenge by unsealing him and killing him. Gray proves the superiority of using two hands for magic, Leon gets bazookaed, and Deliora is revived at last. And we know this because the first thing it does, even before it's fully broken out of the ice, is scream at the top of its lungs. Because, as we all know, the best way to greet a brand new day is with raw, primal screaming. For whatever reason, the show just kind of forgets that a demon with infinite destructive power was just awakened. So Lucy and Urza talk about stopping the Moondrip, thinking it will stop Deliora from being revived, and Natsu and Short Guy have a bit of a scuffle and a conversation where Short Guy mentions that he's fully aware that Deliora will murder Leon instantly, but he plans to control the demons somehow. I guess he wants to be the most powerful man in the world, but having a huge demon that walks slow as shit isn't going to do much for that. Okay, wait, never mind, now the show remembers. It just had to let Natsu and Urza beat the bad people at the same time, only to then be reminded that, hey, there's a big ass demon ready to kill everyone! Gray shows up because, sure, why not, and then Leon crawls in, looking and sounding all crazy because he still thinks he's gonna kill Deliora when he doesn't even have the strength to stand. Kinda puts a hamper in his plans that he chose to fight Gray instead of hiding away and preserving the strength he needs to do what he feels he needs to do. And then when he finally gets up, he gets knocked out with a single restrained hit from Gray. Whoops. Or not, because he keeps yelling at Gray when he prepares to cast Iced Shell to seal Deliora away again. Except Natsu pulls the whole, yeah, maybe it's not a good idea to get yourself killed, sit down and let me handle it. Yeah, like this asshat's gonna be able to single-handedly take down something that could only be sealed away at the cost of someone's actual life. Wait. So during the 10 years it was encased in the iced shell, it was slowly losing its life force, and all the splendor we just saw was only its dying breaths. Well, that's one way to kill the tension of the climax of the arc, which I'm actually sort of okay with, because this whole arc is really based around Gray's backstory and how everything he's experienced in his life up until now has more or less been connected. So it makes sense when after the defeat of Deliora, we cut to Gray crying for real this time, not holding anything back, thanking his late master for saving his life again. That's really cute. And now to wrap things up. Just because they killed Deliora and stopped Leon's plan doesn't mean they're safe from Ursa's wrath. It also doesn't mean they're finished with the S-Class quest, since the job was to not only figure out what's affecting the village folk, but also put a stop to it and change them back to normal. However, something doesn't seem right. They were changed by the Moondrip's energy, but Leon says that it doesn't affect humans. As he puts it, he's been exposed to it as long as they have, and his appearance hasn't changed at all. What's going on here? Remember how they're supposed to destroy the moon because the Elder's convinced it will fix everything? Well, it looks like I was right. Ursa can just find the time to do it. But first, let's clear up those questions from earlier. The village lore claims that no one must go near the temple, even though every night it produces a crap ton of light that no one could possibly miss. And they have tried to go to the temple many times, only to find themselves back at the village gates. And partway through this, Ursa falls in the same pitfall trap Lucy had installed earlier. That's kind of a neat way to tie things together slightly. Ursa, now understanding everything, decides to hold off on explaining things until after she gets Natsu to help her destroy the moon. So with Natsu adding his strength and firepower to Ursa's strength-boosting armor, they fling her darkness-repelling spear towards the sky and...
The moon! It's still there!
Yep! Her plan wasn't to destroy the moon, it was to break the, invisible layer of crystallized gas created from the evil energy released by the Moondrip, which somehow added a slightly purple tint to the moon. Right, fairy tale, got it. Destroying the sky crystal fixes the villagers, but not in the way you'd expect. See, the villagers weren't ever humans, but full demons. They just had their memories altered by the sky crystal, somehow. This would explain how the villagers couldn't reach the temple. It's a holy place that unholy creatures, such as demons, could never reach. Don't worry about the fact that Deliora had been residing in the temple area for 3 years. It's a weird contradiction that will never be fully explained, but if I were to try to come up with a reason why it could be in the temple but the villagers couldn't, it would probably be because Deliora didn't have a choice and was brought underneath the temple by humans. Does it make any narrative sense? Absolutely not, but it's the best explanation I can come up with. Also, the boat guy is back, and he was somehow the only demon in the village to not have his memories altered by the Moondrip. And he was never killed. And he never vanished into thin air, he just jumped. Then they all party the night away, and all is well. 2 of the lackeys, I guess their names are Sherry and Yuka, with the other one being Toby, come to apologize, and Short Guy is shown talking to a random guy, then reveals that he is actually a woman. No, this does not count as a reverse trap. I think. She transformed her body to take on the form of that short man. Why does she do this? Good question! The next morning, despite the Elder's plea, Ursa says she simply cannot take the reward considering the job was never properly accepted. But she does take the gate key for some reason, so now Lucy is the only one who gets any sort of physical reward out of the deal. Then they all leave on the pirate ship that took a liking to Urza when she forced them to take her to the island earlier. Bit of a post-credits scene, but here's the woman who pretended to be Short Guy talking to the guy from earlier. He mentions that was her mother? Okay, sure. It was mentioned before that had a daughter before she took in Leon and Gray, but it was really just a one-off comment from a young Leon in a flashback, so I left it out to keep the pacing of the big fight with him and Gray going smoothly. The rest of the scene isn't really important past that, but keep these two in mind for a future arc. And that about does it. The arc is done. So to end this video, let's go over the themes of the arc and how it affected the show overall. The biggest theme of the arc is breaking down traditional structures of friends and family, because you can be friends with anybody, and sometimes people just become family, leaving your lives eternally connected for the better. In terms of the arc's effect on the series, we have seen one of the main five undergo the last part of a very long character arc, and have grown to understand him a bit deeper than before. Then again, it might not matter at all, since judging by the way all the characters have been acting with regards to their punishment for defying guild rules, the main five except for Urza might just be put to death. This may be the last time you ever get to see any of them again, who knows? Okay, I know. They may not be put to death, but the show will probably make a few jokes on their behalf, and I'm perfectly okay with that. Oh, I almost forgot. Just like last time, I'm going to rate this arc on a scale from 1 to 10. 10 being the best arc ever, and 1 being the worst. Where does Galuna Island fall on this scale? Probably a solid 6. I can comfortably call this the first good arc of Fairy Tail. And by the way, I'm not using the American educational system of grading. Anything 6 or higher is considered good on my scale. I'm trying not to be uselessly cruel on the show, and I can't wait to keep this video series going. I'm Van Campone, and I will see you guys next time.